New gods abound lately in the pages of Marvel Comics. Among them are some that apparently have been around forever, but who we are just as of yet being introduced to? Who are they? Where did they come from? And what are they about? Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda McKnight, aka Vampex13, and we aim to answer all of this and more in this video. So stay tuned. Today we're counting down the top 10 Marvel gods you've never heard of before. Gods, all capital. You see what I'm doing there? So stick with me and let me introduce you to some of the new folks on the block. Who is your favorite god from the comics and why? And are you hoping that they'll tie into this whole new area of Marvel? Number 10, Wynn, aka Sir Redwyn, Lord of the Highlands, Root of the World Tree, Salt of the Earth. When it comes to his alignment, we don't really know where he falls yet. He claims he's been alive for so long that it gets hard to discern between good and evil. Ain't that the way, Wynn? Ain't that the way? I mean, I'm not, a millennia old or anything like that, clearly, but every year that I'm alive on this spinning rock, I definitely feel that to be more and more true. Wynn made his first appearance in the 2023 Free Comic Book Day issue of Avengers and X-Men, where the Gods story and comic was first teased. He kinda looks like Doctor Strange, but Wynn actually has his own thing going on, so don't mix them up. Or do mix them up, but just try to respect and remember that they are different characters, yeah? Now that I told you. Wynn is the avatar of the powers that be, which is a mystical entity that seems to be the opposite of another known as the natural order of things, an entity that is instead representative of all things scientific. Number 9, Dimitri the Science Boy. Dimitri is a pretty interesting member of the Gods group. While he works for the natural order of things as a proxy, he is also known to work for Wynn as well, so he helps to bridge the gap between the two opposing sides. While the powers that be and the natural order of things oppose one another, they also both agreed to sort of balance one another out by making sure that each of their servants has ties to the other side. Dimitri, as such, is the chained apprentice to Wynn, who is the singular avatar to the powers that be. As such, Dimitri first popped up alongside Wynn in the 2023 issue of the X-Men Hellfire Gala. And when we first see him in Gods issue number 1, it is also alongside Wynn, who he brings to a party hosted by other seemingly ancient beings in disguise, where a demon has accidentally been set loose. They gotta deal with that. Number 8, the Powers That Be. The Powers That Be is a mysterious entity that has only been referred to in a few different issues of comics as of yet. They are supposedly an immensely powerful entity and god representing everything weird and magical in the world. We haven't seen them yet, but we do know of Wynn, who is their representative, and who I imagine is supposed to be kind of like our dream of this scenario because Jonathan Hickman wants this to basically be like Marvel's Sandman. Wynn is their one and only sole avatar, which is why I feel like they are more mysterious even really than the natural order of things, who has more representatives and whom Aiko has spoken more on in terms of the Centrum and how that all works. We also know that while Wynn is their one and only avatar, and while he has served the powers that be for a long time, having lived over 1,000 years, he does not feel so secure in his position to see himself as indisposable to his own god. Number 7, 97. Also known as Aiko Maki, 97 is the wife to Wynn. They fell in love without really knowing who the other was, and after 5 years of blissful marriage, it was revealed that Wynn was actually the avatar for the opposing faction, the Powers That Be. The opposing faction to hers that she would end up serving, known as the Natural Order of Things, as she would become one of their 100 Centum. Every member of the Centum is given a number, which also somewhat denotes their rank and their importance. While you'd think the number 97 would mean that Aiko isn't that high up, it's actually the opposite to what most people would assume, with sometimes higher numbers implying a higher rank. Now, prime numbers specifically though, so any prime numbers in there, of which there's only a few, are considered to be like the most high in rank. When she was elevated, she was also made one of the Natural Order of Things immortal scientists. Like many of the other new immortals who are part of the Gods group and series, Aiko also popped up prior to their series launch, first appearing in the 2023 series of Uncanny Avengers, known as Volume 4 and Issue number 1. Number 6, Dr. St. Mur's Circle. St. Mur's Circle is also a member of the Centum, and one of the Centivars selected by the Natural Order of Things, where he is known as Number 2. As 2, or the second Centivar, he would also likely have an important spot in the Centum, as he is the first prime number in the lot. This would imply to me that he is one of the greatest and most senior of the members of the Centum. He makes his first appearance in Gods issue number 1. Number 5, the natural order of things. The natural order of things has only been mentioned in one issue thus far of the comics in Gods issue number 1, but I will say I feel like we have a better idea as to how that god at least seems to work. This is because they have more representatives and systems in terms of how their servants work together. The natural order of things has 100 representatives known as the centum. As the greatest prime number within 100, Aiko is ranked as one of the highest of the centum. There also seems to be different groups who are also responsible for different things, and when Aiko goes to meet with Win and tells him they need to separate, she implies that the theorists of their order had predicted Win's response and also estimated an 84% chance that their gods and factions would return to war with one another unless certain things were to happen. At the same time, I do feel like it's possible both Aiko and Win were being manipulated and that their marriage could have created peace actually between these two groups, which is why their gods, who of course hate one another, would be against that happening to, maintain the feud. So I'm not sure if I believe the reasoning there, but that's what we're going with so far. Number 4, Mia the Magic Girl. So here's the thing. We really don't know that much about Mia the Magic Girl from Gods. We don't even know if she'll be one of the main people in Gods or what's happening with her yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that there will be more to her than meets the eye. Speaking of meeting, at the time of this recording, we haven't met her yet. This is also why you likely haven't heard of this Gods character. She is set to make her first debut in Gods issue number 2, which comes out on November 8th of 2023, so long as schedules stay as they are for this comic. What we do know about her is that she is a seemingly normal girl who happens to stumble into something bigger than her with the eternal feud that has existed between the powers that be and the natural order of things. She herself is a sorceress, so she would appeal, you'd think, to the powers that be and their side. But at the same time, for some as of yet unknown reason, the natural order of things has also taken a specific interest in her. It's also interesting that her character design has her in a red coat, which means she somewhat bears a design resemblance. Thank you. It's also interesting that her character design with her red coat would mean that she somewhat bears a design resemblance to Win, the avatar of the powers that be. Number 3, Cubist Core. Cubist Core at this point in the series is maybe even more mysterious than Mia, despite having at least already made his first appearance in Gods issue number 1. Well, what do we know about Cubist? We know that he is a proto-mage who people thought was dead for a long time, but he's definitely not. And we know that he's out to destroy possibly all of existence. He stole the staff of the Living Tribunal, which honestly sounds pretty impressive, I don't even know how you would do that, and attempted to use it to start a cataclysmic Babylon event. It's unknown just exactly which god Cubist serves at this point. Definitely one of the biggest mystery villains we have yet to meet in this first issue as well, so pretty impressive. Number 2, the Living Tribunal. The Living Tribunal has probably made the most comic book appearances of all those that are mentioned on this list, but they're still not someone most casual superhero and Marvel fans would be familiar with. Trey, have you ever heard of the Living Tribunal?
No.
All right, see, there we got one. And they are actually relevant to this story of the new characters I'll mainly be covering on the list. I was actually hoping that the Living Tribunal would make an appearance in the MCU in She-Hulk, but instead we got Kevin, which, while delightfully odd and meta, perfectly suiting, I thought, She-Hulk, was not exactly what I was hoping for as a comics fan. In fact, I think perhaps the only reference to the Living Tribunal I can recall in the MCU is the staff of the Living Tribunal, which has appeared there, which Baron Mordo at one point wields. The Living Tribunal is one of the most powerful gods in all of existence in the Marvel multiverse, who represents all of multiversal law and justice, the direct representative for the one above all. However, they ended up being slain, and so an alternate reality version of Adam Warlock was chosen by the one above all to take their place. So now that is who the Living Tribunal is. Number 1, the Unrevealed God. Well, some might think that the god that Cubist Core serves is nothing more than your everyday, typical elder god, possibly one of the many angled ones, who has twisted Cubist's mind into thinking he serves the one true god when obviously he doesn't. I'd wager there is more going on here than we can surmise at this point. In issue number 1 of Gods, the god Cubist Core serves is not revealed and seems to be an atypical, like I said, elder god, but this is a world and story story crafted by Jonathan Hickman, who tends to bring everything that happens later in his story back to issue 1 in ways we often as the readers don't expect and definitely don't see when we first read it. I imagine there might be more going on here with who Cubist Core actually serves, even if at the end of the day, he's just an upstart mage, apparently from Georgia. It also might have to do with that alternate reality originating John Wilkes Booth penny that Wynne finds, which sent him on his journey to save the day in that first issue.
Number 10. Dormammu. Known as the Lord of the Dark Dimension, Dormammu was born thousands to millions of years ago in the dimension of the vastly powerful energy entities called the Faltine. Dormammu and his sibling Umar gathered matter to themselves to increase their power, a practice to their fellow Faltine, becoming their dimension's mightiest sorcerers. Ultimately slaying their parent Cinnafer, they were driven from their home dimension, and the Faltine deemed their gathering of such energy intolerable, so they assumed some human forms to explore others. Now you know Dormammu is strong because Odin himself considers him to be equal in strength and power, which he mentions in the Avengers Defenders War event. He has also been known to corrupt Odin's spells against his will, meaning that the sheer magical might that Dormammu wields is potentially equal to beings like Agamotto. His sorcery over the flames of Faltine also demonstrates his raw power, which he used to burn the Celestials even one time. His power is also strengthened and replenished from beings worshipping him throughout the various dimensions. In his dimension, he can banish anyone that enters if he so chooses, but he usually likes to fight them instead. He is a constant threat to the Vishanti and the universe as an entire whole, so check out his whole story in his first appearance in 1964's Strange Tales number 126. Number 9. Trigon. Now if you're like me, then your first introduction to Trigon was through the Teen Titans show that aired in 2003 all the way to 2006. But trust me when I say that there is more to the character than what the show, well, showed. Trigon came into existence thousands of years ago when a group of humans abandoned life on Earth and then established a group of pacifists in the interdimensional world of Azarath. Embracing the concept of peace, these humans exorcised the dark passions of their souls from their bodies and cast it beyond the Great Door of Azarath into the Netherrealm. And then this leftover evil energy floated into space for years before finally coalescing into a single physical form. The last inhabitants of an alien world summoned this darkness from the ether and it impregnated a woman from the Order. And then 9 months later, Trigon was born. Very early on, Trigon showed just how evil he was as he killed every single member of that pacifist group, including his own mother, and then within a year he had conquered that entire planet. Now, Trigon is rarely shown at full power, but from what we've seen, thanks to his demon physiology, he is capable of Eldritch Blast, size alteration, reality-altering magic, illusion magic, and transformation. Definitely check him out for yourself if you've got the time, starting with his first appearance in 1981's New Teen Titans number 4. Number 8. Darkseid. One of the eldest and first new gods, Darkseid is the tyrannical ruler of the world Apocalypse. As a new god, he is a conceptual being that exists outside the normal universe in a realm called the Fourth World. Darkseid has also been called the god of evil, and while there are a few in the multiverse that could surpass him in his monstrousness, Darkseid is probably more accurately known as the god of tyranny. Darkseid's ultimate goal is to rule the universe and eliminate free will entirely. In his never-ending quest to possess the dreaded anti-life equation, there are few lengths that the new god won't go to in order to make his dream a reality. He's conquered a countless number of universes, as few can actually stand up to his powers. You know, he's armed with super strength, telekinesis, immortality, energy and mass manipulation, his omega powers, and a seemingly countless number of others. Honestly, there's little he can't do. Whenever Darkseid arrives on the scene, it's typically an all-hands-on-deck scenario. Only beings with Superman-level power and above are able to hold their own against the new god. Even though he and Highfather are equal in strength, Darkseid is far more vicious and deadly out of the two, and that's why he is on this list today. Check out his story starting with his first appearance in 1970's Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 134. Number 7. Morpheus. Also known as Sandman or Dream, Morpheus is the lord of all that is not real, meaning dreams and stories. He came into existence once the first life forms were capable of complex thought and began dreaming, and that's when he became one of the Endless, the children of time, personifications of ideas and concepts that were tied to life, and were fated to fulfill their functions until the universe ended and all life disappeared from the cosmos. As the personification of dreams, he possesses absolute control over sleep, dreams, nightmares, and even insomnia, and this has granted him other powers such as, but not limited to, cosmic awareness, energy absorption, metamorphosis, telekinesis, and of course, the standard superhuman strength, stamina, and reflexes. Now interestingly enough, despite being immortal, Morpheus was able to die and actually did at one point, which caused a reality storm that rippled across time and space. Gods like Darkseid may pose a universal threat, but Morpheus existed in any and all dimensions in which there are dreams, and that makes his reach so much further and just a little bit more terrifying. Check out Morpheus for yourself starting all the way back in 1989's Sandman Volume 2, number 1. Number 6. Chaos King. Amatsu Mikabashi is none other than the Chaos King, the god of evil, chaos, and the stars to the followers of the Shinto religion in Japan. He possessed the conventional abilities of one of the kami, the order of Japanese deities, such as superhuman strength, speed, durability, agility, endurance, and recuperative abilities, as well as high ability to wield some form of potent Japanese dark magic, a brand of sorcery that seems especially effective against the Olympian deities. His physical strength, at least in his main incarnation, is considerably lesser to that of Zeus or Izanagi per se, and is roughly equal to that of the average kami, but Mikabashi can project energy on a scale at least rivaling that of Zeus and Izanagi. Like the Asgardians, the Japanese gods are extremely long-lived but not truly immortal like the Olympians, as they tend to age at an extremely slow rate upon reaching adulthood and are 3 times denser than normal human beings. During the events of the Chaos War, we catch a glimpse of Chaos King teamed up with Necra and none other than the Grim Reaper and Abomination to fight against the other gods. He even goes as far as unleashing Carrion Crow, Eater of the Dead, to antagonize the revived X-Men members. Now all in all, he is brutal in terms of methods and isn't really too easy on the eyes, so check him out for yourself, starting with 2006 Thor, Blood Oath number 6. Number 5. The Darkest Night. Now before anyone calls me out on this, I want to make it clear why he is so low on this list today. It's because this literally just happened in the comics, so there's like no information on him, so it's kind of tough to decide where he should be on the list. Now that being said though, he still deserves to be talked about today. Now formerly known as the Batman Who Laughs, Earth -22's Bruce Wayne is a bit more evil than the others. After snapping Joker's neck, a mysterious gas entered his body and caused his mind and body to transform into an insane Batman-Joker hybrid. Now that's basically all you really need to know for this instance, so let's talk about how he turned into the Darkest Night. So it's revealed in Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 2 that the Batman Who Laughs has been in possession of the body of a mysterious blue Bruce Wayne, and that he had a plan revolving around him. After his death at the hands of Wonder Woman, this plan goes underway as Alfred takes the brain of the evil Batman and places it inside the body of the blue Bruce, who is revealed to be a Batman Dr. Manhattan hybrid that I call Batmanhattan. Before long, the Batman Who Laughs wakes up in his new body, now more powerful than ever, as he possesses all of the powers of Dr. Manhattan, the intellect of Batman, and the insanity of the Joker. Without hesitation, he pulverizes all of his followers except for the Robin King, but he doesn't stop quite there. The Batman Who Laughs has no interest in being the pure blue-like character. Instead, he alters his shape yet again to become a monstrous creature of shadow. Put simply, this is the most powerful Batman we've ever seen to date, and I personally can't wait to see what's to come. Check out the lead up to this reveal starting with 2020's Dark Knight's Death Metal number 1. Number 4. Thor. The god of thunder, Thor Odinson, is easily one of the strongest beings in the Marvel Universe. When Odin and Gaia, the goddess of Earth, came together, the two immortal beings had, well, Thor, designing him to be the strongest of all the other gods in Asgard. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but Thor is, well, ridiculously strong, with Superman-level strength, invulnerability, a kinship with the elements themselves, and boasted the ability to wield the mighty mystical hammer Mjolnir. Capable of destroying planets while wielded by Thor, Mjolnir can warp reality, control storms of staggering intensity, enable him to fly at light speed, teleport, and honestly pretty much anything else. While Mjolnir boosted Thor's incredible strength, it also serves as a conduit, as in extreme circumstances Thor can summon his elemental power without any aid. Thor is so powerful that during the Siege storyline, after Norman Osborn and his Dark Avengers almost invaded Asgard, he, well, straight up stopped them. Unfortunately, Sentry swooped in later to topple the city of Asgard, but he was ultimately defeated by none other than Thor again. As the North god of thunder, Thor has the ability to use different aspects of storms such as lightning, rain, wind, and whatever else as weapons. Not to mention his durability is truly something to behold, as in Thor number 300 he withstood the energy blast from the Celestials themselves. He's also been able to fight off the Frost Giants for months at a time without needing to even rest or have any sustenance of any kind, in Thor the Trial of Thor number 1. In his warrior mindset state, Thor's strength and stamina can increase exponentially, but it takes possession of him in some sort of way. It's like a blind fury that will attack everyone around him, including his friends and allies. Now truly, there are few mortals who can challenge the Thunder God. Check out his whole story starting with 1950's Venus, number 11. Number 3. The One Below All. Residing in the lowest depths of the underworld known as the Below Place, the One Below All is the dark counterpart of the One Above All. It is the source of the mutagenic third form of gamma energy, which allows it to use gamma mutates to manifest itself whenever it feels it's necessary. The One Below All is actually what gave the Hulk his powers in the first place, as the gamma bomb test partially opened the green door that Below was kept behind. Fast forward through some really cool events that you should definitely check out for yourself, and we see the One Below All possess the body of Brian Banner as the Devil Hulk. Walter Long Wachowski as Sasquatch, and the Absorbing Man, which led to the final battle of the Immortal Hulk arc. Revealing its true form, a giant green cloud of crazy gamma energy, the One Below All torments the Hulk so much that Bruce Banner and the Hulk actually separate. However, Absorbing Man was able to reroute the gamma energy that the demon was using into the Hulk's body, and with one just big ol' thunderclap, the One Below All was stopped, at least that time anyways. One Below All is just way too strong, and I will be surprised if he ever appears in, well, anything really. I highly doubt we'll see him anytime soon, so check him out in his first appearance in 2018's Immortal Hulk, number 5. Number 2, the One Above All. Now we can't talk about the One Below All and not go over the One Above All. Easily one of the most powerful beings across all comics, the One Above All is the embodiment of unknowable concept of the transcendent other. With limitless power, he's the one who jump-started reality as we know it, and created whatever rules govern the cosmos and the ethereal entities that run them. He can often choose not to interfere in matters, though he rarely reveals himself to individuals. However, a few times that has happened, like with Peter Parker, and even the time he appeared as Jack Kirby to the Fantastic Four. He is the anchor point for all the power and magic that exist in the multiverse. Now it's rumored that the One Above All might even be Stan Lee himself, as he's capable of creating or destroying all reality should he so choose. In Thor Annual number 14, Thor discusses the existence of the One Above All by saying that it's humbling to know that while the Living Tribunal is one of the most powerful beings in all of the universe, the One Above All who created everything must just be greater than all of his creations combined. The One Above All comes to Peter Parker as a beggar to comfort him after the webhead falls into a spell of depression. He doesn't understand why his life just seems like one big tragedy after the next. But the One Above All reminds Peter of all the good that he's done and the people that he's saved. It was a truly touching issue that introduced us to the true god of the Marvel Universe, who gave Peter the advice he needed to live a long and happy life. So check it out for yourself in 2007 Sensational Spider-Man number 40. Number 1, The Presence. Now we talked about Marvel's true god, so let's take a look at DC's answer to that same question. Put simply, the Presence is the fictionalized counterpart to the god of the Abrahamic but mostly Christian religions. It is considered infinite and eternal and second only to the Primal Monitor, which is essentially the writer or the canvas and paper of whatever comic book he's featured in. Ignoring that, the Presence is otherwise absolute in power. While it can still be hurt or killed like most other deities, the Presence will actually come back. This form that you see the Presence in normally is actually one of the many that he's taken throughout the course of history, so let's go over some of the more well-known. The voice form is the disembodied voice of God that spoke to and empowered Jim Corrigan as the Spectre, and it's actually the primal force in charge of the Spectre's powers. This is the most active version of God seen, to the point that it even answers the Spectre's prayers by resurrecting the murdered Justice Society. When the voice uttered the first word, it created the Word, and it was already being traced by Destiny in his book. Now the hand form is, well, a hand that was seen coming out of the nebula at the moment of creation. This is the presence that the rogue guardian Cronus saw when he went back to the beginning of time. The hand has been seen again by the Swamp Thing, Deadman, and the Phantom Stranger when heaven was threatened by the return of the original darkness. And finally, the presence is an unseen entity who commences the allegiance of the host of angels. Check out this god in its first appearance in 1940's More Fun Comics, number 52.
Starting off with number 10, Zeus. First appearing in Superman 28 back in 1944, Zeus is a name many would recognize, not just comic book fans. So Zeus is the father of many, including none other than Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, who I'll get to a bit later on in the list. Zeus is one of the gods of Olympus, so he basically possesses unlimited power. He's kind of a big deal in mythology. Kind of. Which one would only expect being the son of Cronus and Rhea. How powerful is Zeus, you ask? Well, for starters, he can manipulate weather, like the weather. Little less known fact about him is he could also shapeshift, resurrect the dead, and create new life. Zeus was referenced in the 2017 Wonder Woman film, obviously, along with other Olympian gods. We catch a look at him in the Justice League movie, and I would love to see more of this guy. I mean, he uses a lightning bolt to separate the 3 mother boxes in the film. I would love to see more of these things that he can do. Like, it's Zeus. Can we just get an entire trilogy? I'll watch it. If you haven't already seen Justice League, you might as well wait for the Snyder Cut at this point. Number 9, Metron. Making his first appearance in New Gods Godhead issue 1 back in 2014, Metron is also referred to as the owner of the Morbius chair. He created the technology known as boom tubes. He also once survived an attack from Darkseid's daughter, and if you're not aware of who Darkseid is, that's why we have part 1, so go on over and check that out as soon as you're done here. Metron, okay, he's considered one of the most intelligent beings in existence, for good reason. This Morbius chair I mentioned, it's a pretty sweet setup. It allows for Metron to travel between any location and timeline in any universe at any time. Batman once had this chair and he still was concerned about street crimes. Classic Batsy. That is until Owlman came in and ruined the day. Number 8, Highfather. Also known as Isaiah the Inheritor, he made his first appearance in Wonder Woman Volume 4, Issue 14. He's the ruler of New Genesis and is a powerful new god who wants to bring peace to the multiverse. And he's also out to destroy his brother and worst enemy, you guessed it, Darkseid, who again is covered in part 1. Just go check it out. Leave this video, go check it out and come back. No hard feelings. Isaiah lives outside of normal time and space as well, even the New 52 universes. So since he got his powers, he actually doesn't age. So that dude's gonna look fresh forever. He can also feel when something isn't right in the universes, especially when it has something to do with his brother, Darkseid. He can also get in your head, like literally. He can mentally link himself to you and eventually cause physical damage. That's how powerful he is. And if that's not scary enough, he can take a regular boring human, like myself, and within seconds turn them into a new god just by thinking about it. He even once obtained the Genesis Scepter, channeling the white light of life, giving him access to the power of the life equation. But he ended up destroying it because he felt too much guilt. Too much power? I mean, maybe. We gotta draw the line somewhere. Number 7, Wonder Woman. The daughter of Zeus herself, I only thought it was fitting to put her in this list. We've seen her in movies deflecting bullets, and we're gonna see her ride lightning whenever Wonder Woman 1984 finally gets released. Wear a mask. But just how strong is Diana Prince? The Queen of the Amazons was living a pretty chill life. That is until Steve Trevor, played by the oh-so-fine Chris Pine, ended up crash landing on the island Themyscira. A tournament was held to decide who was going back to Man's Land with Trevor, so Diana thrived and even completed the final task of deflecting a bullet fired from her own mother. Awarded with the lasso of truth and a badass suit of armor, she was on her way to the top in no time. She was donned the name Wonder Woman by the press after she handled some terrorist. It's been handled, son! Using the bracelets of submission, she can deflect bullets, and as the bracelets are made of the 8th metal, which is a pretty strong metal, the lasso of truth is exactly what you think it is. The gods of Olympus gave it to the Amazons, and it was their prized relic for a long time. She can actually blind you with this thing while making you spill your deepest, darkest secrets. So you don't want to bump into Diana Prince anytime soon, believe me. Number 6, Lucifer Morningstar. Making his first appearance in Sandman Volume 2, Issue 4, he's a fallen archangel and he actually used to rule hell at one point. That's right, like hell, you know. He was cast out for rebelling against the kingdom of heaven, so after about 10 billion years, give or take, he decided to abandon his lordship over hell. That's a long time, like a long time. During this time, Lucifer had manipulated the demons in hell so that they would go against each other. Like he would just stir shit up, spreading rumors. It was basically a reality show for demons down there. He's like, yo man, Hella told me you couldn't read, is that true? While swirling some wine. I dig it. So eventually he got bored of this and decided it was time to move on. He was getting tired of being treated the same all the time. Everyone thinks he's the guy that purchases and trades souls, which isn't exactly the case. His job description is just to punish whoever ends up down there. And he thought it was quite unfair that he had to rule there forever simply because he rebelled. Like, come on guys, it was one time, relax. So he handed the keys to hell over to 2 angels, Duma and Remiel, and retired to Earth. What a weird retirement. Yep, happy retirement. The subway never runs. You're gonna be late always. See ya. His powers, however, unmatchable. Because he's an archangel, he still retains some of those powers. Like for starters, he can manipulate any external force for any effect he desires. He can create flames with his hands and then travel realm to realm. What a hot high five he would give. He can go to hell, literally, go to hell, and then immediately go to the void, which is a space outside of creation itself. His only weakness, if you want to call it a weakness, is that he can't create something from nothing. Big deal. He even once cast a spell on a door, making it so that if that door was opened, it would unmake all of creation. Not bad. That's, for magic, not bad. I can do the thumb thing, so what's up, Lucifer? Get at me, bro. Number 5, Death. That's right, I said death. She's too powerful not to include. Being born with the universe, in a similar way eternity embodies life and growth, there has to be an equal and opposite, that being death, in which embodies decay and destruction. I like death a lot. The character. I don't walk around with Ouija boards on me. I'm not, not into that. Kind of. We'll talk. Making her first appearance in Captain Marvel issue 26, Death is actually really close with Thanos. I was really hoping to see more of this relationship in the MCU, but Cate Blanchett playing Hela kind of filled that void for me a bit. That was good fun, she's great. But Death, yes, they're different. Death was intrigued by Thanos from the start. She manifested herself to look like a young girl in his school when he was just a little wee Thanos. little wee Thane Thanos. She convinced Thanos to kill a whole nest of critters after the same critters allegedly were the cause of a recent cave collapse, killing Thanos' friends. So yeah, she's kind of like the bad cop. There's another character that's in love with death, and that character happens to be the merc with the mouth, Deadpool. I'll save that for another time. So what can this cosmic level entity do besides whisper bad ideas in your head? Well, every lost soul belongs to her, simply put. She cannot die, obviously, as she's not really alive to begin with. In fact, Thanos and Gamora are the only ones that can actually see death in her true form, except for when you're dying. Then you'll see her for sure. And you don't want to see her. Number 4, Perpetua. Arguably the most feared being in the greater Omniverse, making her debut in Justice League Volume 4, Issue 8, Perpetua created the multiverse, using negative crisis energies, also referred to as the 7 hidden forces of creation. So once it was created, she then made 3 sons to inhabit the multiverse, those being Mar-Novu, Alpheus, and Morbius. The multiverse consists of 3 main realms with different matter. So Mar-Novu got the positive matter realm, Alpheus got the dark matter realm, and Morbius the antimatter realm. Perpetua's role was already filled, being the creator, so now all she has to do was just make sure her children don't die. Infinite power, biofusion, molecular reconstruction, reality alterations, this chick has it all. She even once sent the Justice Society of America back in time. I would be crazy not to have her in this list. You gotta check out more of her. Number 3, Gaia. First appearing in Doctor Strange Volume 2, Issue 6, Gaia uses an unlimited amount of power drawn from the Earth. She's literally Mother Earth. So whenever you hear people say that, now you have a face to put along with it. So before any life on Earth was even created, Gaia is commonly referred to as the caretaker of evolution. She was actually the one who decided for the dinosaurs to become extinct. She's like, yeah, you with the long neck, get out of here. You're a bit too much. Stop eating my trees, plants. Stop eating my shit. Get out of here. Beat it. Thank you, Gaia. Thank you for all those terrifying giant spiders in Australia. Hey, if anyone watches this from Australia, go close your windows right now. I know you forgot to close one and you're gonna thank me later for it. No giant spiders today, sir. So, she can use all of the spiritual energy of every living being on Earth, seeing as she's part of the Earth's life essence. She of course can manipulate weather, so if you're acting like a dick, she can just hurricane your town up for a couple days until you cool off. Using the Allspeak, not the Allspark, don't even think about comparing them, she can speak in every language of the 9 realms. I barely passed grade 9 French, so I mean, it's pretty impressive. Number 2, Surtur. We caught a glimpse of what this guy can do back in Thor Ragnarok, released in 2017, but what else is he able to do? I mean, who is this guy? Originally the ruler of Muspelheim, and as we saw briefly, the destroyer of Asgard. In the comics, Surtur was destined to be part of Ragnarok, all along, using the Bifrost and the Twilight Sword. He's also the mortal enemy of Thor and his father Odin, who I'll get into a bit later on. So how strong is he though? Well, he possesses the power of 1,000 blazing suns. That's right, not just regular suns, blazing suns. What? He's 1,000 feet tall, give or take, and can even change sizes, so it doesn't even matter anyways. He of course has super strength, but here's the best part. Whenever he's reunited with the Eternal Flame, scratch that, whenever he's even close to the Eternal Flame's vicinity, his powers increase drastically. I mean, already this guy's fire powers are so strong, he could alter the Earth's temperature. Super hot fire, Surtur spits that. And finally, number 1, Odin. By Odin's beard! Okay, like I mentioned earlier, of course, Thor's father himself has to be in this list. Also, this list isn't in any particular order, so don't be giving me in the comics. I'm just throwing them out there. Odin might be my favorite god on this list, simply because Sir Anthony Hopkins plays him in the MCU. The former king of Asgard himself, Odin, protector of the 9 realms, adoptive father of Loki and father to Thor and Hela, the god of thunder and goddess of death. Even us on Earth consider him the god of wisdom. I mean, Anthony Hopkins. Kinda makes sense. Not gonna argue it. Making his debut in Journey into Mystery number 86, Odin defeated Surtur when he was just a young lad. So his brothers had been killed by the fire beast, and then they gave their powers right to Odin. So from the start, this dude was shredded. He took away Thor's powers 3 times. 3. You think after losing that hammer the second time, you'd be like, alright, fine, I won't start any fights, you win. I wish we saw more of Odin in the MCU. I mean, hopefully we get to see a de-aged version with Anthony Hopkins kicking ass in a prequel, or even a flashback. I would settle for a nice, juicy flashback in Thor Love and Thunder. They're so good at de-aging over there. Besides Peggy Carter, they nail it. CGI mouth, I don't know, didn't work for me. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Iron Man. The Fear Itself storyline is a wild ride. The serpent is after Earth and people are getting turned into statues. It is a absolute nightmare. Tony is fighting Mock in the streets of Paris and it's not looking good. So now we need another plan. What's plan B? Plan B was Tony getting permission from Odin himself, forge a weapon of his own on Nidavellir. Now Tony ends up making weapons for the entire team after sobering up. He was really slamming drinks down and then he prayed to Odin. You know, really going through it. And then in issue 7, Tony and the team now have an Asgardian makeover. Just walking, talking hammers of Thor, basically. Now they of course won, everything went back to normal, but Tony destroyed the weapons afterwards because, you know, you can't have those things lying around, obviously. Number 9, Star-Lord. Okay, we gotta go to film just for one point here because we can't leave this one out. At the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, was able to hold an Infinity Stone with his bare hands. He held the Power Stone. Now, this didn't go unnoticed. Even groups of beings in the past have tried to do that by sharing the power amongst all of them, and it never works. They end up going like, whoa, and they turn to skeletons. Now, his real father turned out to be a Celestial. He was a living planet. His name was Ego. Rightfully so. So Ego goes around and he like reproduces all over the galaxy and then he wipes the planets out. He gets bigger and stronger. He's a god. Peter Quill's now a god as well. They're playing god, son, and father catch. So as long as Ego's alive, Star-Lord is basically a god. We have a big celestial battle at the end of the movie where he's fighting his dad and he's turning into Pac-Man. It's kind of weird. It's a little dumb, but it's fun. So once Ego was taken care of, Peter lost his god powers and went back to just normal, plain old Star-Lord, which is still pretty cool. I'm kind of glad he's not a god because that was a weird part. I mean, it would have been helpful in Infinity War. Maybe all those punches to Thanos' face would have done some damage rather than, you know, kill everyone. Number 8, Crystal. She made her first debut in Fantastic Four issue 45, and she was the second child born from Inhumans, Quaylen and Amber. Now, she actually brought Quicksilver back to Adelon to heal him, then the two fell in love there. She's basically a god. I have to include her because, I mean, she's pretty underrated. She has a bunch of these incredible abilities, and one of those abilities is atomic manipulation. She can rearrange atoms and all of the elements as well. She can control anything in the universe, basically. That plus her ability to levitate without the help of any elemental powers. I don't really know what else to call her. She's definitely a god. And if she ever is under attack, she can use air molecules and bind them together psionically and then make a force field for herself. So you don't want to mess with Crystal. Very underrated, 100%. Number 7, Wolverine. Wolverine's been known to be the time travel guy. He makes the confusing runs because his regeneration ability allows him to really go deep. It gives him the advantage in Days of Future Past type plots. Now in Uncanny X-Men Annual, a villain named Horde comes in and wipes the entire team out, Wolverine included, but a single drop of blood saves the day. A single drop from Wolverine falls onto the Crystal of Ultimate Vision, and then bam, Wolverine now leveled up. He regrows his body with his new power, and then he brings the pain down on Horde. It's unreal. It's pretty amazing to see. Like, Logan is just so happy in these scenes. I mean, obviously he's a god, but he knows all the secrets of the universe. He's finally at peace. Look at him. He even referenced another X-Men who once became a god herself. That X-Men being number 6, Jean Grey. Jean Grey is a mutant born with telekinetic and telepathic powers. She was one of the original members of the X-Men, and seeing the potential in Jean's strength, the Phoenix Force attached itself to her while she was in danger during a space mission with the Fantastic Four. That all happens during X-Men issue 101. So now she's a Dark Phoenix and she's full of power, full on god mode. This dark, powerful cosmic force started to change her for the worse. She ended up destroying a solar system that killed like, I don't know, billions of people, and then it ended up taking her own life in order to keep the universe safe. So a few years later, it was revealed that it wasn't actually the Jean Grey that had died. It was just the Phoenix as a separate entity that had taken over her mind and all that stuff. The Phoenix Saga is one of the biggest transformations to an X-Men member. If you haven't read it, go check it out immediately. Number 5, Kurth. This one comes from Fear Itself storyline. Juggernaut was already pretty terrifying to begin with, but then he got an upgrade and a prison was destroyed. It was a mess. The Hammer of Kurth was one of the 7 mystical warhammers that the serpent summoned to awaken the worthy. Remember that serpent guy that I mentioned earlier? That's the same one. So the hammer crashed onto the raft and Juggernaut just happened to be detained at the raft at that exact time. And the most frightening and obvious and most entertaining thing happened. He was quickly turned into Kurth, Breaker of Stone, which sounds even more scary than Juggernaut somehow. He attacked a nearby guard with one hit and the shockwave was so powerful that the prison and all the land around it just exploded. And at the same time, Hulk became Null, Breaker of Worlds. So it was a mess. Whoever had to sweep up the streets after this, Their back must be in so much pain. Number 4, Kid Omega. Quintavious Quire made his first appearance in X-Men issue 134. He's been described as one of the most powerful telepaths next to Jean Grey. He stood out to Professor X as a brilliant student, and his abilities were never crystal clear. On his birthday, when he was still young, he received this fantastic phone call from his parents to say that he was adopted. Yeah, happy birthday, worst gift ever. So from then on, it went downhill. He got this Omega tattoo that he covered over the X tattoo, and he was in the Omega Gang now. And the Omega Gang handled humans that committed crimes against mutants in their own dark way. So he was troubled, to say the least. But things got harder for him when the Phoenix Force came along, as things always do. This happens in Wolverine and the X-Men issue 37. Quentin gets a good look at the Phoenix Force when he becomes an avatar to it, and his future self was shown to be a host as well. Real trippy moment for him. Number 3, Batman. The Mobius chair is a pretty powerful chair. It made its first appearance in New Gods issue 1, and the chair was created by Mobius himself, aka the Anti-Monitor. Now he gave the chair to Metron, but Metron slipped up one day, and Batman ended up becoming a god for a hot minute. It's pretty sweet. Wonder Woman grabbed Metron with her lasso and pulled his ass right off, and right before he could summon boom tubes, Batman just jumped on it like musical chairs. And then the Dark Knight becomes a bright light. He became the god of knowledge. Batman became the god of knowledge. What an upgrade that was. The whole team is fighting Darkseid, and Batman is just floating in this chair, figuring the universe out the entire time. Like, oh my god. He's searching the cosmos for answers, and it's honestly quite the spectacle to read. And as if things couldn't get better for him, add a power wing into the mix. Yeah, this guy was literally unstoppable. Number 2, Supergirl. Kara Zor-El was 15 years old when her cousin Kal-El was born. She was launched into space right before Krypton's demise and spent 2 decades orbiting Earth's sun while she remained in stasis. Now her pod eventually crashed down in Siberia, and these giant armed robots started to, try and fight her. Now when she fought back, she learned that she wasn't the same. She learned that she was a lot stronger than whatever the hell was around her. And then when Superman himself showed up, the two fought as she didn't really recognize the stranger or believe him about Krypton's, So right off the bat, she's got a lot of rage and confusion inside of her. Now this rage had a chance to come out and get even with the world when she became the Red Daughter of Krypton. This was an ultimate upgrade, definitely counting this as becoming a god. I mean, look at her, that's pretty cosmic and unstoppable. I don't really know what else to call her. And as crazy as it may sound, joining the Red Lanterns helped Kara get over her anger and isolation issues, and she gained emotional stability from it. Get over your depression in these easy steps, just become a god. 4 issues later in Red Lanterns 32, Guy Gardner kicked her out for her own safety. But for that bit of time, Kara was probably loving life. And finally, number 1, Wonder Woman. Now I know Wonder Woman is already basically a god, being the daughter of Zeus and all, but once she became a god of war in the New 52. Wonder Woman issue 23 and 24, we find Wonder Woman taking on the Firstborn, but it wasn't looking good for Diana. She needed help until she went god mode on everybody. Diana has to make the hard choice of driving a spear through Firstborn and Ares, so Ares gave Diana congratulations for being a mighty warrior, and Wonder Woman spared the Firstborn's life and took Ares to the River Styx. And then when Wonder Woman returned, the gods declared her the new god of war. Kicking off the list at number 10, The Flash. Of course, this one is epic. We gotta start with it. In part 1 of this list, we talked about when Batman sat upon the Mobius chair, so it's only fair if we take a look at Barry Allen's fun little upgrade in Darkseid War Chapter 4, The Death of Darkseid. Now this is when Darkseid's daughter Grail summons the Anti-Monitor to go toe-to-toe with Big Guns himself. So Darkseid summoned the Black Racer in retaliation, but when the Anti-Monitor stripped the Racer of Darkseid's control, it was then merged with Barry Allen, which is quite the combination. And then after that point, he was able to take on Darkseid a little easier, to say the least. Number 9, Doctor Strange. When we're talking about superheroes becoming a god, Doctor Strange wouldn't be far off that description as it is. I mean, he's quite cosmic as it is, but in Doctor Strange issue 385, the Sorcerer Supreme lost the mantle to, well, Loki. Loki's tricks made Stephen hand over his magical possessions and the Sanctum Sanctorum, everything that belonged to him that made him special. He was like, bye, gotta go. So Strange had to become a veterinarian, just a total career flip, which is great. So then Strange had to break into Asgard, find the world tree, and then once he was there, Strange had to make an offering, and the tree opened his third eye, so he found what needed to be done. He had to make an offering, a sacrifice really, so he grabbed Bats, his dog, who Loki kind of already took care of, and then Strange felt nothing like before. He felt more magic than he's ever known. And after this point, Strange says he can see everything because he is everything. He is a god of magic. Kind of like David Blaine. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be great. You're the best. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's get right back into this list. No more wasted time. Number 8, Batman. Okay, back in 1994, best year ever, comic book fans were delighted when the Elseworld storylines were launched. Now there was one shot that had Bruce Wayne become a Green Lantern, and it was pretty epic. A couple times superheroes become lanterns, and I'm gonna count them as a god for a few of them because, well, you can't really argue it too much. Batman in Darkest Night finds Bruce Wayne starting his path as the Caped Crusader, but that's when Abin Sur crashes down to Earth, and that ring that once belonged to him has to find a suitable replacement. Now it ended up finding Bruce Wayne instead of Hal Jordan. And he looks great as a lantern. I mean, honestly, his skills already mixed with his new ability makes him unstoppable, really. I mean, Bruce wasn't the only one to acquire a ring also. The Rogue Lantern, Sinestro, merged with Joe Chill, the guy who was responsible for the death of Bruce's parents. So the stakes are high, the punches are hard, it's a good time. If you haven't checked out Batman in Darkest Night, I suggest you do it. Especially if you're looking for more Batman, godly type comics. That's the way to go. Number 7, Cosmic Spider-Man. Of course, we gotta use this guy. Cosmic Spider-Man, aka Captain Universe, is one of the most powerful versions of the web-slinger. Cosmic Spidey went toe-to-toe with Rune King Thor and beat him. He was like, no problem, I can do it again. Cosmic Spider-Man isn't from our Earth, he's actually from Earth 13. That's where he retains the power of the Enigma Force, and he first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, Issue 9. Now Cosmic Spidey can't leave his universe or else, well, he would lose the Enigma Force. That's why the resistance of spider heroes always goes to Earth 13. They're like, hey, don't leave, we need you with the powers, we'll come to your house. It's kind of like when your friend's on house arrest and you're like, you know what, we'll come to your place tonight. You know, those scenarios that we're all in? What a weird example. He meets his demise only a couple issues later, but it was fun while it lasted. When the Inheritors were hunting down Spider-Man, their leader Solus drained the Enigma Force from Peter, but we can find more of him in What If Volume 2, Issue 31, titled What If Spider-Man Had Kept Those Cosmic Powers. You see the best of both worlds, Miley Cyrus style. Number 6, Black Widow. In What If Age of Ultron, Issue 3, one of our timelines gets a little messy. See, the Midgard serpent took down all of the Avengers. It was just wreaking havoc, and it killed them all. Well, I mean, mostly all of them. See, Thor bites the bullet during this battle, which leads to Ragnarok, and then everybody who has superpowers is just not around anymore. It's bad. So a whole month goes by with Natasha and the team trying to stay alive, battling every day. Then eventually, Natasha comes up with her own little secret side quest. Mjolnir is in the same spot as it was before, obviously. So while the team is going forward with their own plan of blasting every weapon that they have at the serpent, Natasha sneaks off, reaches out for Mjolnir, reminds the team that they're a bunch of regular humans fighting a god's war, and then seconds later becomes a god herself. The old serpent situation was a little easier to handle after that. I gotta say, Natasha looks pretty good with the hammer. Looks pretty, she could probably kill a lot of people with that. Number 5, the Golden Oldie. Okay, now hear me out. I know Aunt May can't swing building to building like Peter. She wasn't a hero before, technically, but she was one in Marvel Team Up 134. In many ways. See, it's Aunt May, Franklin Richards, and Galactus. The classic trio. After Nova died due to his lack of energy, Galactus came to our rock in space and asked for Reed Richards to help out. Well, rather, he finds Franklin Richards and picks him as the new Herald. But Aunt May steps in front of him to prevent this from happening. So I'm gonna say that this moment right here, this regular human saving the day, Aunt May, she is now a hero. It's decided, now she's a hero. And then page 12 and 13, just seconds later, she becomes the Golden Oldie, which already sounds epic. But then when Aunt May finds out from Franklin that Galactus has a thing for Twinkies, the new Herald of Galactus, Golden Oldie Aunt May, searches the universe far and wide until she finds the best planet in the world, the Twinkie planet. So yummy. Which is a much more delicious planet for Galactus when it comes to feeding time. So she saved the day and also the planet. Way to go, Aunt May. Number 4, Captain America. Yeah, I should probably mention this one, seeing that I almost choked on my peanut M&Ms when it happened. Captain America, Tony Stark, and Thor. The big three are going toe-to-toe with Thanos and Avengers Endgame in the 3rd act. Now, the odds aren't looking good at this time. All the snapped heroes haven't really returned yet, so it's still looking not good. Tony is unconscious, Thor is about to get his own axe through his chest, and then Steve hucks Mjolnir at Thanos, and then the theater went nuts. Cap plus the Hammer of the Gods equals really fun CGI, a lot of good CGI. Cap lifted Mjolnir back in the late 80s in Thor 390, titled The Hero and the Hammer. So it's happened once before. But when Cap had the hammer, he didn't really enjoy the powers of a god. He said they were intoxicating, sure, but it belonged to Thor, so he quickly tossed it back to its rightful owner. What a gem. But those 6 guys got smoked by Cap with the hammer in that initial pull. Like, as soon as he picked it up, those 6 guys are like, That was crazy. Iron Man was actually the first to lift the hammer back in Avengers 122, back in the mid-70s. But then the hammer rules were a little bit different. You see, you could lift the hammer if you were in space, and you could lift it if Thor was also lifting it at the same time, but like, it doesn't really count. It's like when your little brother plays a game with you, but the controller's not plugged in. It's like, it looks cool, but you're not doing much. Number 3, Barry Allen. Making his first debut in Showcase issue 4 way back in the 1950s, Barry Allen, aka The Flash, aka the fastest man alive, has been a founding member of the Justice League, and after an experiment gave him super speed, he's been saving the day at blink and you'll miss it speeds. But then during the events of Blackest Night, Barry is being targeted by a black ring and is forced to get out of there, or else, you know, he joined the others as a Black Lantern. And then in issue 2 of Blackest Night, The Flash, Barry, is chosen to be the wielder of the blue power ring of hope, which adds to the super speed stuff quite a bit. So now he has the ability to heal other lanterns, and now he could even fly on top of the speed, which is pretty new for Barry. His imagination is only the limit here when it comes to powers, and he ends up partnering with fellow Blue Lantern Saint Walker in order to save Barry's grandson, Bart Allen. So it really works out for the best. They kind of kill it. Number 2, Mr. Fantastic. Since the early Fantastic Four days back in the 60s, Reed Richards has been known to be the stretchy smart guy, right? Now, in fact, he's considered one of the smartest people on Earth. He's a polymath who's mastered all of the sciences, be it electrical, chemistry, physics, aerospace engineering, that's a big one. But after the events of Secret Wars, Reed got an even bigger advantage when he convinced Molecule Man to strip Dr. Doom of his powers and instead give Reed the Omega upgrade. So after this, Mr. Fantastic was able to destroy Battleworld, rebuild Earth 616, and also bring his family back from the dead. Must be nice, that's pretty sick. And finally, number 1, Superman. Yeah, whenever the Man of Steel gets another upgrade, it's bound to be pretty impressive, even closer to God level. Now, I know he was already a god before, kind of with his powers, but it just gets even better. Before Darkseid and the Anti-Monitor went against each other in Darkseid War, Superman and Lex were taken to Apocalypse, which was a mess, of course. And on top of that, there wasn't a sun in the sky, so Superman was getting to that 20% battery notification pretty quickly. Things aren't looking hopeful. He's losing his powers, it's not looking great. Lex had this brilliant last resort idea where Superman would fly down into the planet because it's filled with sun fire. Sure, not a bad call at all. But what ends up happening is far greater than they expected. The dark energy charged Superman back up, but it also turned him into a negative version. Not like, you know, he was sad, he didn't listen to like Evanescence and stuff, but he was the god of strength now, and also his morals just went out the window, so it made for a pretty entertaining ride. It was a nice change.
Number 10, Explorer. Explorer is one of the elders of the universe, some of the oldest living beings and entities to have ever existed. Among them are some names that you may recognize, although you may have not known them to be elders of the universe, such as the Collector and Grandmaster. Explorer is believed to be one of the oldest beings belonging to the Elders, and considers the other members of the team to be like his siblings. He is probably one of the most lesser known of the Elders of the universe despite his immortality, and also one of the most mysterious. If he has a power set, we don't really know what it is, but like the other Elders, as time goes on, the longer you survive, it seems the more powerful you become, whether or not you have superpowers. Wisdom and time strengthen you. Explorer has only appeared in a few issues of the comics, which is why he's likely so often forgotten in comparison to other members of the Elders of the Universe. Number 9, Origin. Origin is a super cool idea for a character. I love how many cool abstract entities we have like this in the Marvel Universe and the multiverse. Origin represents all the origins we have within the Marvel Universe of 616, seen as a being therefore of fate. Origin is believed to have been the one responsible for summoning the forces and events needed to come together in order to have granted and ordained mutants abilities from the moment of their conception and growth in the womb, created groups like Fantastic Four, and brought Thor and the Asgardians to Earth. Basically, if something in 616 has an origin, Origin probably played a role in that. They are constantly in battle with an entity known as the Unbeing, who has sought to undo what they have brought to pass. Origin first appeared in Quasar in issue number 18. What a neat and, of course, powerful concept. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it where we talk about some of the lesser known cosmic entities and gods of the Marvel Universe, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8, Black Winter. Black Winter is an entity that feels weird to me to have so low on this list, but at the same time, despite being a multiversal god-like cosmic being, they did recently get their metaphorical butt whooped by Thor in the comics. However, that's likely not the end of this cosmic entity, despite them appearing to have died there. There was a lot of foreshadowing that they brought with them when they appeared in the first story arc of Donny Cates's current 2020 Thor series. The Black Winter was formerly known as the Creeping Plague in the comics when they first appeared, but over many years revealed themselves more fully in the comics, being known by the name of Black Winter, as they generate a dark eldritch snowfall which can destroy anything that its flakes come into contact with. Pretty fitting name, I think. Pretty powerful entity. But still, no match for power cosmic amped up Thor, who drained Galactus of all his power, seemingly killing him in order to destroy this threat. Yeah, Thor OP. If Thor was someone that we didn't know about, he would be a great person for this list. But as I said, we all know Thor, right? Who doesn't know Thor? If you don't know Thor, I don't know, you don't know Marvel at this point. That's something you gotta know. Number 7, Witchcraft. Witchcraft is the goddess of witchcraft. As far as I know, she's only ever really appeared in the Scarlet Witch series, showing up there once. The goddess of witchcraft is, as she sounds she would be, the goddess of all magic and pretty much all magic users. Scarlet Witch sensed that something was wrong with magic and the goddess, and realized that witchcraft was basically being targeted by another abstract entity and god, Chaos. Chaos sought to destroy witchcraft and pretty much succeeded in the end, but Wanda's mother, Natalia Maximoff, also a powerful witch, sacrificed her own soul to bring back the goddess of witchcraft and to resurrect the powerful witch and Wanda's mentor, Agatha Harkness. Witchcraft is so cool, both the goddess and just like the whole world of it within Marvel. Such a cool idea. I need to go read more Scarlet Witch now. Excuse me. Number 6, Chthon. Chthon is the god of chaos, known for their attachment to the Scarlet Witch, aka Avenger Wanda Maximoff. Her powers of chaos have been tied to this god in the past, and at times, because of their ties, Chthon has even tried to break through into the earthly plane through her by attempting to possess her. Well, succeeding in possessing her and then basically having to be like defeated is more what happened. Chthon actually belongs to a group of earthen gods known as the Elder Gods. Why does that sound so spookily familiar? The Elder Gods? Chthon is actually believed to be the most powerful of all the Elder Gods actually. He has connections to dark magic and chaos magic and is not just a powerful god, but also an immensely powerful mystical force besides. Basically, just bad news. If Chthon shows up to the party, get out of there, it's gonna be chaos all over the place. Number 5, Volknar the Exhumer. Thanks to Eternals and Guardians of the Galaxy from the MCU, the Celestials have become a more common Marvel god group, something that you can throw around at a party with a bunch of people that, you know, haven't read all the comics and they'll be like, I know who the Celestials are. Sweet. The Celestials are the one who created the Eternals and, in essence, in the MCU, use them to birth new Celestials. Celestials are creators of life, but tragically, worlds kinda have to be sacrificed in the MCU in order to create Celestials and incubate them. Earth was at one point one of the worlds threatened by the birth of a new Celestial, but in the MCU, the Eternals banded together to prevent Earth's destruction, managing to turn the waking Celestial into marble before it could basically rise up. However, in the comics, the dark truth the Eternals learn is that in reality, the Celestials actually plan to cultivate and then harvest humanity and Earth to use in their battle against the corrupted Dark Celestials and the Horde, which threatened both the Celestials and basically the universe. Where the Celestials are inherently seen as neutral or sometimes a good force, the Dark Celestials are pure evil and really only seek to awaken the Horde and to just destroy stuff. Volknar the Exhumer was no exception and was a member of the final host of the Dark Celestials. Volknar, with the others of his group, attempted to attack and destroy Earth, but Iron Man banded together with the Avengers after learning the secrets of the Unimind, because at that point the Eternals were gone. Creating a Unimind and banding together with the Celestials, Earth was able to fight back and defeat Volknar and their brethren. Bye, Dark Celestials. Except not really, because, you know, can't. Celestials are hard to destroy, but you can stop them if you try really hard and you believe, and you create a Unimind. Number 4, Eternity. When it comes to the main comic book continuity of Earth 616, basically that's what Eternity is. Well, Eternity and his sister Infinity, kind of. Together, they embody the 616 universe. Eternity is also an abstract entity that represents time as well, making them pretty epically powerful. There are some that usurp them when it comes to their power levels, but those beings would usually be more on a multiversal level, on a whole other level of just powerful, because there's the universe and then there's the multiverse, baby. Eternity has been stated to be above all other abstract entities in the 616 universe, including Mistress Death, Master Order, and Lord Chaos. Within the realm of 616, there is almost no power too great for them to possess as the embodiment of that universe. They can easily manipulate it and bend it to their will as they see fit. Because I mean, they are it, so yeah. Number 3, the Living Tribunal. The Living Tribunal basically represents the justice of the multiverse. They are one of the most powerful beings and entities in the entire multiverse, though obviously aren't at the top of the food chain when it comes to our most powerful but lesser known gods of the Marvel Universe and multiverse. The Living Tribunal only has one form, but is in essence a constant and can exist across multiple realities at the same time. However, any alternates seen in this way are really just one entity, therefore not alternates, because the Living Tribunal is able to be at multiple places at once. As I said, they can exist. There can be multiple versions, but it's really just one. You know what I mean? It's an OP trait. I would love to be able to do that, to just have me and be as I am, but then have multiple versions of me, cross realities. Think of how much work I could get done. The Living Tribunal in essence represents the Marvel multiverse and exists to uphold its integrity and stability, working as the force of justice within the multiverse. The Living Tribunal also has power levels that are off the charts, and at one point a version of Adam Warlock took the place of this powerful entity after the Living Tribunal died, becoming the new Living Tribunal. Adam Warlock, Living Tribunal, here to do the job. There are lots of Adam Warlocks across the multiverse. Number 2, the one below all. I mean, it's really hard to say between these top 2 points who's really the more powerful between them, as they're kind of like different sides of the same coin. But this is what I decided to go with. If you disagree, you can let me know in the comments. I'm cool with that. We can have a debate. It'll be fun. I'm definitely giving away my number 1 spot, by the way, if you are deep in the god mythos of Marvel. But if you are, good for you. And also, thanks for still watching this video just to see what little old me thinks about these gods and their rankings. I think you're neat. The one below all is basically the real Satan or devil of the Marvel Universe. I know that Mephisto, Azazel, and Damon Hellstrom's father have all kind of claimed to be like the one and only devil, but really that title most truly belongs to the one below all. They are the dark side of the multiverse's creator, and as such are also an all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, multiversal entity and being. Although where the other half is more broad when it comes to, their focus, the one below all is pretty niche. They basically rule over gamma mutates, being the source of mutagenic gamma energy, which is still super cool. It's just that's kind of more their focus. They can possess and overtake gamma-powered or mutated individuals and bend them to their will, making them not just powerful, but also a pretty scary entity overall. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check it out in Immortal Hulk, which if you haven't read it, you should read it because it's the best thing since sliced bread. Number 1, the one above all. The one above all is so powerful they don't even have their own designated universe. Instead, they exist in all of the universes, being a multiversal entity and constant. And yes, if you haven't already guessed, they are the other side of the coin when it comes to the one below all. In essence, the one above all is like the god of the Marvel comic book multiverse. They are the creator of all things, and despite the existence of many other gods and immortal constants, both good and bad, they exist pretty much above them all. The one true power of the multiverse. They are seen to be an omnipotent and omniscient being who can do all and see all. It is believed that everything that exists in the multiverse was in fact ultimately created by them. Out of respect for the two major creative forces that started it all, the one above all has at times appeared to resemble both Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, often considered Marvel's founding fathers, which I think is also super sweet and appropriate. Who would the one below all though be? Who's like who's like the Satan of Marvel. Number 10, Tiamat. While there is a character named Tiamat in the Prime Earth continuity who is quite different, the version of Tiamat we're discussing here once claimed to have been worshipped as a goddess and was an enemy to Aquaman, likely belonging to the Anunkai, gods and goddesses who were worshipped in ancient Mesopotamia and who were the children of the sky god Anu. Tiamat battled Aquaman in his 90s series a few times and also appeared in War of the Gods, where she did battle against Aquaman again, representing the Babylonian hierarchy of gods and goddesses. Number 9, Harmonia. Harmonia is known as the goddess of harmony and concord. Being that we have the Greek pantheon in the DC universe, those well versed in Greek mythology probably won't be too surprised to see that she too exists among the gods and goddesses there. But those who are less familiar with, the whole of Greek mythology probably didn't even know about her at all. Harmonia would also definitely be lesser known among DC fans as she only appears a few times in the comics. Still, she has been around since the 80s and is known for being the daughter of Ares and Aphrodite over at DC, which also aligns with one of her prominent origins from Greek mythology, where she's the daughter of Ares and Aphrodite. According to Greek mythology, Harmonia was the keeper of a cursed necklace, which was passed down through generations, and either was unlucky or was cursed because it held within it her power. And I imagine that it's like, if you get the necklace, then it's like you now have her power, but you're not supposed to. It's kind of weird though, because you'd think like harmony wouldn't be a bad power to have. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you haven't already, be sure to go over on Facebook and give us a follow. It really helps us out here at the channel and we really appreciate it. Number 8, Ishtar. DC taps into a lot of different realms when it comes to the widespread realms that their gods cover. One such god or goddess, I suppose I should say, is Ishtar. Ishtar actually hails from Mesopotamia, specifically being a prominent figure in the Babylonian Empire. She exists in the New Earth continuity, and while she isn't predominantly featured in DC mainstream books, she is a character who appears in the Vertigo line of comics in The Sandman. Here we learn that Ishtar was also once the lover of destruction, one of Dream's siblings and a member of the Endless, themselves also gods who represent major ideas and concepts that rule over life and death in the earthly realm. Number 7, Ia. You may have been familiar with Quat, but did you know about Ia, his twin brother? Ia is the identical twin brother of the sun god Quat. He made his first appearance alongside his brother in Future State Superman/Wonder Woman issue number 1. While he doesn't take as active a role in that series as his brother does, I'm hoping that as Yara Flor continues to develop and grow as a character in the DC universe, that there is a good chance we could see more of the Brazilian pantheon of gods, Ia included. Yara Flor taking up the mantle of Wonder Woman and her existence as a hero was what helped to bring back the belief in the gods of Brazil, and it would be cool to see more of the moon and sun god brotherly duo as well as all the other gods. We don't get to learn too much of what Ia is capable of as we only see him briefly in Future State, but gods who represent the moon, such as the Greek Artemis or her Roman counterpart Diana, are generally known for being powerful, full of wisdom, and sometimes a little bit of mystery. They also tend to be twin siblings of the god that represents the sun, which obviously is quite fitting here. Number 6, Thor. Although Thor is more thought of as a Marvel hero, he is a Norse god and technically comes with the free IP, so of course DC has their own version of this character, and has depicted the god of thunder a few different ways across labels and series. Thor made his first appearance in DC Comics back in 1946 in Comic Cavalcade issue 17, where he actually played a somewhat antagonistic role. Odin in fact also appears here in the Wonder Woman story therein, titled The Valkyries Pray. In fact, he wants to try and make Wonder Woman into one of his Valkyries and believes that she might indeed be fit to serve him. I feel like Wonder Woman's gonna be like, nah, I'm good. I got some gods. I'm good. Number 5, Hel. Just as there is a Thor in the DC universe, there is also a Hel. In the Marvel universe, we know Hel as Hela. She is the daughter of Loki in the comics, Thor's niece, and is the banished sister of Loki and Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the DC universe, she is also the daughter of Loki and mainly appears in Sandman Presents the Thessaliad. At least, her new Earth mythological version does. There's also a villain known as Hel from Axis America, real name Helen Shepard, and a character named Hel in the Prime Earth continuity, who's a Kryptonian villain. So there's a lot of Hels running around. In Norse mythology, Hel is normally known as the ruler of the underworld. Number 4, Delirium. Delirium is a family member of the Endless. She is one of the youngest family members and was once known as Delight. I actually did a Delirium cosplay a short while ago, and while quite a few were fans of Sandman that saw it and loved the look, others did not even know who Delirium was, although a lot of them still loved the look, which was nice. So of course, I thought her a fitting addition to this list. Delirium once represented the spark of happiness, joy, and innocence as Delight, but now represents represents insanity and lucidity in the world. She can make you mad just by wishing it or gazing at you, and often to her this is a gift that she bestows on those who she favors. But insanity is also something she uses to punish those that displease her. Needless to say, she is not necessarily a member of the Endless that you would want to cross, but nor would you want to be rewarded by her. Aside from bringing madness with her wherever she goes, she can also create beings and bring inanimate objects to life and alter her own appearance based on mood. When she has to become the voice of reason, her eyes will typically be the same color, though they are normally each different colors. Generally one is blue and one is green, but which eyes are which color tend to constantly shift as well. Number 3. Zonas. You might know about Darkseid, who belongs to the new gods, but do you know about Zonas, who belongs to the old gods? After all, for there to be new gods, there had to have been old gods, right? Zonas is one of the old gods and is in fact believed to have been the last of the old gods. He was known as the god of evil, or Yuga Khan. At one point he wielded anti-life, claiming it was what allowed him to actually resurrect the old gods, and is the original one to wield Omega beams. Zonas ended up being trapped in the source, and even after escaping that prison and attempting to destroy all of creation, was defeated and then imprisoned there once more. Number 2. Upside Down Man. I'm not quite sure if we consider Upside Down Man a god in the DC universe, but what I do know is that he is the dark reflection of Hecate, who is quite dark herself, so that's saying something. And she is considered to be a goddess and a powerful witch, so I think we can consider Upside Down Man to be at a god level. And of course, Upside Down Man is also a powerful magic user. Hecate was the first creature to be born to magic, and Upside Down Man came into existence about the same time or shortly thereafter. Fearing the horror of this magical monster, Hecate actually basically banished Upside Down Man, cutting him off from the world and the other members of the other kind, who later were let back into the world during the events of the second Justice League Dark series. His magic is particularly strong because he pulls it straight from the source, as in the source of all existence, energy, and things in the universe. Number 1. Death. While fans of the Sandman series may be very familiar and huge fans of Death, because honestly everyone loves this character, a lot of people haven't read the Sandman series yet and do not know this character, or haven't listened to it yet, or haven't seen the show yet. I mean, the show isn't out yet. Still waiting on that. I really wanted to give her our top spot because not only is she super powerful and of course a little bit more niche, but while many people know of Mistress Death from Marvel, not as many people know about DC's Death, who is also a lady, and I think that is a crying shame because honestly, Death from Vertigo and DC is just a cooler character overall. Sorry, Mistress Death, I love you, but I love the Endless version of Death even more. I like DC's version more, I know. Death will likely become more loved by the mainstream when she appears in Netflix's The Sandman series, but until then, she can just be our best kept secret. Except not now for you, because she's on this list, so now you know. She is not the oldest of the Endless, but she is the second oldest. Her elder brother Destiny is the only one that's actually older than her.
Barbados, or Barbatos. From the DC universe, Barbados, aka the Hyper Adapter, is a bat-like cosmic being that often appears in the form of a bat-like demon that can traverse time and space freely. But in the new 52, the character is reimagined as the god of the dark multiverse and the first incarnation of Batman. Yes, you heard it right. This super evil demon god is actually known to have taken the form of a bat in Wayne Manor, which Bruce takes as a sign from his late father to commit to the Batman mantle. I don't know why he does this though, because Batman then commits his whole life to fending off evil forces. It's sort of a trade-off because although Batman goes on to become, well, Batman, Barbados ends up using the hero as a portal to the multiverse and starts work on assembling his own roster of evil Batmen called the Dark Knights. This would include Batman Who Laughs, among others.
Number 9. Parallax. Parallax isn't technically or officially a god, but they are one of the manifestations of the emotions of the color spectrum, an avatar and physical manifestation of fear, what the color yellow represents and embodies, at least over at DC Comics. And they are also a cosmic entity who is super ancient and powerful, so I think in regards to Green Lantern lore and importance, we can put them on god level. Parallax was the one responsible for taking over Green Lantern Hal Jordan, feeding on his own fear and insecurities over the years. In fact, the graying of his hair at his temples was later pointed out as an indicator of Parallax's growing strength. Fun fact. At least that's how some people saw it. Could also just be Hal getting older, really. Parallax took over Hal, becoming one with him, and causing Jordan to give up his Green Lantern mantle, and be known simply as Parallax. As Parallax, Hal Jordan threatened the entire universe and destroyed the Green Lantern Corps and their major battery, which is pretty villainous and powerful stuff.
Null, the original creator of the symbiotes and Eldritch god of darkness. Null is a very powerful and very old villain. He is first awakened when Celestials invade his kingdom, and he decides it is time to create his first symbiote. His first creation comes in the form of a sword, which he uses to decapitate a Celestial. This is his first big demonstration of power, and it's quite something. He then decides to branch out and expand his venture of creating symbiotes to take over all of the good in the cosmos. And he does this by creating what's known as a hive mind center with himself as the nexus, meaning he'll have control over any and all symbiotes that are controlled through the hive. His army then really starts coming together with draconic monsters, anamorphic creatures, and shadow men, all under his control and dedicated to satiating his evil hunger for life. Luckily though, Null eventually finds himself disintegrated in the center of the sun. But that's a huge fast forward I did there. This villain god does some serious damage to the greater good of life in the cosmos before he's finally taken out.
Number 7. Khonshu. Khonshu is an inherently an evil god when it comes to actual Egyptian mythology, just to be clear. And even in the world of Marvel, he's actually done a lot of good. But he's also done some pretty shady things. Especially recently, he's done some pretty shady things. During the Age of Khonshu event in the Avengers series, Khonshu actually used his avatar Moon Knight, aka Mark Spector, known as the Fist of Khonshu, to help him defeat Mephisto. Now while this sounds like a good thing, since when it comes to Marvel's gods, Mephisto being like Marvel's devil or Satan is kinda one of the worst, it turned out to not be so good after it was revealed that Khonshu planned on taking over the earth and turning it into his own Egyptian underworld. This revelation caused Moon Knight to turn on his god, and as Khonshu often likes to remind us, his father, teaming up with the Avengers to take him down. Following this, Khonshu would actually become imprisoned in the dungeons of Asgard, and while he can still visit Moon Knight via visions, he can no longer be physically present on Earth while imprisoned.
Mephisto. This guy is known as an extra-dimensional demon who takes on the likeness of a traditional devil from the Christian religion, and he resides in a place he calls Hell, or Hades, but he isn't actually Satan, and his homeworld isn't actually Hell as we know it. He uses these terms in an effort to exploit the constructs of fear and evil that humans have instilled into our culture. Although he does have ties to the original story of Adam and Eve in the form of the snake in that tale, so I don't know, seems kinda Satan-y to me. But his origins are widely understood to be unknown, and one of the only theories comes from the story of Nemesis. This being was born at the beginning of time and tried to create other beings in the likeness of his own immense power, but accidentally created a bunch of demons. And as you guessed it, Mephisto is one of these demons. Nemesis then ends his own life and becomes the Infinity Stones. That's just a side bit of lore for you, in case you didn't know. But thank God the Infinity Stones are banned for demons, because if Mephisto got his hands on those, it'd be all over.
Number 5. Perpetua. I kinda feel bad actually that Perpetua is only like halfway up this list, but that's alright. She had her time in the sun. It has come to a close. Perpetua has to be one of the most powerful godlike beings in all of DC Comics. She basically sought to take over and destroy all of the multiverse so that she might rebuild it in her own image, but was stopped by her children and trapped in the Source Wall. By the way, one of her children is also on this list. See if you can figure out who it is. Later on, she teamed up with the Batman Who Laughs to get free, but ended up being double-crossed by him, tricked out of her own reality-shattering power. Still, the power was originally hers, and she was trapped in the Source Wall because there was nowhere else strong enough to hold her originally. Perpetua's only downside as a being who can bend reality and even life and death to her whim is that she relies on crisis energy to fuel her immense power, which is how the Batman Who Laughs was able to steal her power from her. He was like, I'm gonna take that crisis energy. Gulp. Yum.
Chthon is one of the original Elder Gods that inhabited Earth billions of years ago. Over time, Chthon becomes the first black magician on Earth after studying the mystical forces of the universe. Unfortunately, about 1 billion years ago, these elder gods that Chthon was a part of degenerate and start turning into demons, Chthon included. Luckily, one of them, Gaia, avoids this transformation and keeps her pure form, giving birth to Adam, who makes it their duty to slay these demons. But Chthon avoids the God Eater and escapes by creating another dimension known as the Flickering Realms. Chthon's writings are left on Earth in the form of scrolls which are eventually bound together into the Darkhold. So his influence continuously finds its way back to Earth despite his banishment to this new dimension. He even possesses Modred and eventually Scarlet Witch for a time to keep pushing his evil magic agenda on his original home of Earth.
Number 3, Darkseid. Another guy that doesn't know how to chill. Even though Perpetua can literally bend reality to her whim, Darkseid is constantly in the DC universe, which means he basically has to always exist. You can't ever really defeat him because Darkseid is. What is Darkseid? No, he just is. Every time I say this in a video, I'm like, it sounds so confusing, and I feel like anyways, I'm gonna explain it to you right now. Darkseid is a short phrase that implies that Darkseid will always exist. This also extends to the idea of what Darkseid represents. The phrase was actually introduced by Grant Morrison, and to me it has always embodied the idea that Darkseid is more than just the being. He's the feeling, the fear, the destruction, and in some cases, the oppression that Darkseid represents. Even without Darkseid, those things still exist, and so in a way he can never really be gone. But also you can interpret this phrase more literally, as after all, Perpetua may have been a powerhouse, but she's gone now. Well, Darkseid still is.
Anti-Monitor. We all know this guy. He's a real thorn in the side of everything good in the universe. He's also another one of those characters that finds his origins at the very dawn of time. Okay, so he's not around since day one, but almost. He's first created as the result of a conflict on the ancient planet of Oa, during which the inhabitants fight it out over the decision of whether to destroy all of the evil in the universe or only some of it. It's crazy how petty wars can be, eh? Even in the ancient cosmos. Anyway, the bad guys go to a dimension called Quord, where Anti-Monitor is birthed. In the positive matter universe, the Monitor is also created, the counterpart to Anti-Monitor as you can tell, and you best believe those two end up fighting. But it's no normal war. They battle it out for 1 million years, and I'll save you a million years and skip to the end, it ends in a tie. They both go unconscious and hibernate for 9 billion more years. Of course, this is just the beginning. Anti-Monitor comes in and out of pretty much every DC character's story at one point or another as a major threat, and I'm sure you can guess why.
Number 1, the one below all. Probably one of the most powerful of all gods in the Marvel Universe. Definitely the most powerful god, I would say, on this list. The one below all is the dark counterpart to the one above all, which is seen as the creator of all the Marvel Universe and multiverse besides. One of the most powerful beings of goodness in the whole of Marvel Comics. Likewise, the one below all is therefore one of the most powerful beings of evil. They are typically connected to gamma mutates and can control and manipulate those who have been mutated by gamma radiation. The crazy thing is that without the one below all, we actually can't have the one above, and vice versa. One cannot exist without the other, and so with them both comes a whole lot of bad and a whole lot of good. Number 10, Loki. One person I am really still hoping to see in Love and Thunder is the god of mischief, Loki. I know main continuity Loki is dead in the MCU and gone, but there are still a ton of variants out there, including the new main alternate continuity variant from the Loki series. Heck, I'd even take a cameo from Kid Loki or Alligator Loki in this. Any of the Lokis, really. After all, Kid Loki does end up on the Young Avengers team, which is obviously slowly being introduced in the MCU, likely so they can eventually, join up and form the Young Avengers. Although he's not part of the original roster of that team, he is a prominent member later on. Boastful Loki or Classic Loki might be cool. Sylvie even might be an interesting one to have show up, as I think she'd really surprise Thor. Also, I wonder if, like in one of the comic book alternate universes where the two heroes are actually sisters in that universe, Sylvie's Thor was also maybe a female version of Thor. I'll even take Loki in flashback form if that's my only option. Just give me some more Loki, please.
At number 9 is Searcher. Although he's already appeared in Thor Ragnarok, I think this god needs to at least be referenced in the new movie once again if it's going to be consistent with the comics. Because Searcher, aka the Lord of Muspelheim, aka King of the Fire Giants, is an immortal being that truly never dies. He continues to make appearances throughout the Thor comics, and much of the time the conflicts seem to escalate to a point where Searcher is the be-all and end-all of basically all life in the cosmos. I mean, his sword is capable of destroying whole dimensions in one swing. So if this new movie needed perhaps a common enemy for both Gorr and Thor, or an overarching threat to the greater good of Asgard and beyond, Surtur would be the character to bring back to make that happen. I do think Gorr the God Butcher will be enough of a threat, but just in case they wanted to crank this sequel to 11, Surtur is there, and Clancy Brown is there to voice him again. I like Clancy Brown.
Number 8, Gaia. Gaia could be another interesting goddess to see in Thor 4. And I know that we said gods at this list, but goddesses, gods, we're covering all the genders in this, okay? In certain origin tales, Gaia is actually the mother of Thor, having been the mate of Odin in the guise of a woman named Jord. This is also why Thor is so attached to Midgard, as Gaia is the elder god of Earth, representing the planet and shaping it as she sees fit. In fact, I think she was even maybe responsible for the dinosaurs being gone. That was Gaia. Gaia was like, man will exist now. Ta-da! Gaia is also linked with Earth in an important way. She is a protector of the planet and also represents it, so if she were threatened, Earth would be threatened as well. Thor already had a mother in the MCU, Frigga or Frigg if you will, but even just threatening Gaia would put Gorr directly at odds with Thor, and would likely make Thor take the threat of Gorr very seriously. As harming Gaia could mean the destruction of Earth, which would also serve well to elevate the stakes, as Thor Odinson and Jane Foster Thor likely are going to have to team up to take on Gorr.
At number 7 is Ares. The God of War has come in and out of both Marvel and DC comic events, and although he is more commonly known as a character from ancient mythology, he has made enough appearances in the comics to appear in the MCU at this point, I would say at least. As we all know, Thor 2 is a character that was pulled from ancient mythology, so to reunite Thor with another Greek god at this point in his MCU run would just be a cool homage to his roots. And of course, Ares being the god of war and a villain by nature, this could open the door for some pretty even matchups for the other gods in the storyline. I think the presence of Gorr the God Butcher could give us a cool look into how nuanced Gorr's motivations are as well. Would he seek out Ares as one of his targets, or would he use him as a support system to first take down Thor and Odin? Hopefully if they included Ares, they would also throw in Hercules to even the playing field, or they could just not include either of them, which is probably what's actually going to happen, unfortunately. But I still hope, maybe see some Ares. At least not in this one, maybe the next one. We'll see.
Number 6, Khonshu. We now know Khonshu from the Disney Plus streaming series Moon Knight. We also know that the Egyptian gods exist. Wow. While a lot of them got messed up by Amit's and Arthur Harrow's attempt to basically rule the world, feeding on the souls of those destined to do ill, Khonshu survived that battle and is still out there. While Mark Spector and his other persona Stephen Grant believe they're actually free from Khonshu's influence, we learn that Khonshu still seems to have a hold over their shared physical form at the end of the series, with the reveal of Jake Lockley, limo driver slash assassin, the third persona residing within Mark. So it's possible that Khonshu could become the target of Gorr in Love and Thunder. In fact, many people expect that Moon Knight and Thor 4 could be more connected than they seem, due to the Egyptian pantheon being a big part of that series.
At number 5, I'm putting Serpent, or Kull Borson. Introduced during the Fear Itself storyline, Kull Borson is Odin's brother and Thor's uncle naturally, but he's more commonly known as the Norse god of fear. When he's freed from an underwater prison by Red Skull's daughter Sin, he makes it his work to turn many well-known Marvel superhumans into evil henchmen. This would include Juggernaut, Absorbing Man, and the Hulk, just to name a few. And his influence as a Thor villain is so extensive that I think we should expect to see him in the MCU at some point, whether it's the new sequel or not. Serpent would be a perfect addition to the MCU since he's both an extremely powerful and overwhelming force against Thor and his allies, but also, and more importantly, because he's part of Thor's family. So the character would offer great opportunities for both drama as well as epic action sequences, and maybe even a crossover with these henchmen listed before. He also turns into a giant snake, which would just be pretty badass visual for the VFX team.
Number 4, One Above All. The One Above All could be a super cool god to see in Thor, Love and Thunder, and just in general. For those unfamiliar, the One Above All is literally the god of the Marvel Universe, often presented as being one of the supreme and ultimate good gods with the most power within the Marvel multiverse and beyond. The One Above All is often depicted as resembling Jack Kirby or Stan Lee, a couple of the main founding fathers over at Marvel Comics. RIP. Considering that Stan Lee could now be digitally recreated and Disney has rights to use his likeness, this might be a cool or perhaps a disturbing one to have, depending on how it's done. That is, if we want this god to look like either Stan Lee or Jack Kirby, but yeah. Granted, I wouldn't want Gore killing the one above all, but I also don't think he'd be able to do that unless we really want to see him as being like crazy OP. I don't even know what would happen if you did that. It might be cool just to have some nod to the existence of this major godly presence within the MCU. Although when it comes to Stan Lee continuing to potentially do cameos in the MCU past his, his physical demise, let me know how you feel about that possibility in the comments. It hasn't been announced, but we know that Disney does have the rights to use his likeness from the Stan Lee universe, who actually own that, and I certainly have some complex feelings about this whole thing in general.
At number 3 is the Midgard serpent, or Jormungand. For those of you who don't already know, this is a different serpent than the one mentioned previously. This one doesn't have a human form. It's an immortal, snake-like beast that is known as the son of Loki and sorceress Angrboda. This creature is a recurring opponent to Thor, and his influence is immense. He's one of those bad guys that never actually gets killed, with the gods only being able to banish or imprison him. He's so powerful that just by moving around, he causes earthquakes and tidal waves on Earth, and he also has the ability to create complex illusions that are capable of deceiving even the most powerful of beings. He also typically appears in his ethereal form, during which he is basically invisible to his opponents. Even in his final battle with Thor in the comics, he doesn't fully appear in corporeal form, with some of his body still in a spiritual plane of existence. Jormungand is also a god killer, with his venom being lethal to any and all gods if he lands an attack just right. So if he did appear in the new movie, perhaps Gore would be able to use the creature to his advantage, before ultimately needing to turn on the serpent himself. That is, if he were consistent with his grudge towards gods. We'll see.
Number 2, Hercules. I mean, I'm still waiting for Hercules to make an appearance in any of the trailers we get, but as this movie is quickly approaching, I think this might be a cameo that is actually kept as a surprise. Oh my goodness, something that's a surprise in a Marvel movie. So rare. Or Hercules might not appear in the Greek pantheon as well, because I think they're all gonna die. Obviously we don't want that for Hercules, who is not only a powerful and mighty hero, but is also a fairly good friend to the X-Men as well later on, and the Avengers, taking the younger X-students in at Avengers Academy at the behest of Captain America during the events of Avengers vs. X-Men, back when Hercules was actually filling in as faculty there. Hercules is actually a really popular hero in Marvel canon, at least among other supers. In addition to being a friend of the X-Men, he's been a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D., Defenders, and of course, the God Squad. I'm really hoping we see the God Squad in this. Also, in the alternate reality of Earth 12025, Hercules is actually the romantic partner of James Howlett, aka alternate Wolverine.
Finally, at number 1 is King Phoenix, God of Fire. As much as I doubt this character is actually going to appear in Thor: Love and Thunder, a guy can dream. And the only reason why I say this is that I see no signs that the story is going to jump into the other reality in which old King Thor lives and exists. And even if they did, I don't imagine that they'd make an attempt to introduce the Phoenix Force into the mix, considering how busy the movie already seems to be. Because if you're unaware of who this character is, or if you missed my Thor variants list previously on the channel, King Phoenix, God of Fire is a mixture of both old King Thor and the Phoenix Force. And the result is a supercharged, overpowered variation of Thor that I can imagine would make easy work of some of Thor's otherwise unbeatable enemies. Now, although I don't suspect anything like this could happen in the new movie dropping in July, I think it's inevitable that we'll at least see old King Thor at some point in a future MCU project. Or maybe in the after credits scene or something like that. But I may be wrong, so if you have a hunch that this new movie could include the older version of Thor, please let me know in the comments, because this has got to be my favorite of Thor's variants. And I just think it would be really great to see a mature, aged version of Thor with years of wisdom under his belt. And then adding Phoenix Force would just be the cherry on top, but I'd settle for old King Thor as well.